In Search of the Miraculous by P.D. Ouspensky. Chapter 6. One of the next lectures began with a question asked by one of those present. What was the aim of his teaching? I certainly have an aim of my own, said G, but you must permit me to keep silent about it. At the present moment, my aim cannot have any meaning for you, because it is important that you should define your own aim. The teaching by itself cannot pursue any definite aim. It can only show you the best way for men to attain whatever aims they may have. The question of aim is a very important question. Until a man has defined his own aim for himself, he will not be able to even begin to do anything. How is it possible to do anything without having an aim? Before anything else, doing presupposes an aim. But the question of the aim of existence is one of the most difficult of philosophical questions, said one of those present. You want us to begin by solving this question, but perhaps we have come here because we are seeking an answer to this question. You expect us to have known it beforehand. If a man knows this, he really knows everything. You misunderstand me, said G. I was not speaking of the philosophical significance of the aim of existence. Man does not know it, and he cannot know it so long as he remains what he is. First of all, because there is not one but many aims of existence. On the contrary, attempts to answer this question using ordinary methods are utterly hopeless and useless. I was asking about an entirely different thing. I was asking about your personal aim, about what you want to attain, and not about what the reason is for your existence. Everyone must have his own aim. One man wants riches, another health. A third wants the kingdom of heaven. The fourth wants to be a general, and so on. It is about aims of this sort that I'm asking. If you tell me what your aim is, I shall be able to tell you whether we are going along the same road or not. Think of how you formulated your own aim to yourselves before you came here. I formulated my own aim quite clearly several years ago, I said. I said to myself then that I want to know the future. Through a theoretical study of the question, I came to the conclusion that the future can be known. And several times I was even successful in experiments in knowing the exact future. I concluded from this that we ought and that we have a right to know the future, and that until we do know it, we shall not be able to organize our lives. A great deal was connected for me with this question. I considered, for instance, that a man can know and has a right to know exactly how much time is left for him, how much time he has at his disposal, or in other words, he can and has a right to know the day and the hour of his death. I always thought it humiliating for a man to live without knowing this, and I decided at one time not to begin doing anything in any sense, whatever, until I did know it. For what is the good of beginning any kind of work when one does not know whether one will have the time to finish it or not? Very well, said G. To know the future is the first aim. Who else can formulate his aim? I should like to be convinced that I shall go on existing after the death of the physical body, or, if this depends upon me, I should like to work in order to exist after death, said one of the company. I don't care whether I know the future or not, or whether I am certain or not of life after death, said another, if I remain what I am now. What I feel most strongly is that I am not master of myself, and if I were to formulate my aim, I would say that I want to be master of myself. I should like to understand the teaching of Christ, and to be a Christian in the true sense of the term, said the next. I should like to be able to help people, said another. I should like to know how to stop wars, said another. Well, that's enough, said she. We now have sufficient material to go on with. The best formulation of those who have been put forward is the wish to be one's own master. Without this, nothing else is possible, and without this, nothing else will have any value. But let us begin with the first question, or the first aim. In order to know the future, it is necessary first to know the present in all its details, as well as to know the past. Today is what it is because yesterday was what it was. And if today is like yesterday, tomorrow will be like today. If you want tomorrow to be different, you must make today different. If today is simply a consequence of yesterday, tomorrow will be a consequence of today in exactly the same way. And if one has studied thoroughly what happened today, the day before yesterday, a week ago, a year, 10 years ago, one can say unmistakably what will and will not happen tomorrow. But at the present, we have not sufficient material at our disposal to even discuss this question seriously. What happens or may happen to us may depend upon three causes: upon accident, upon fate, or upon our own will. Such as we are almost wholly dependent upon accident. We can have no fate in the real sense of the word, any more than we can have will. If we had will, then through this alone we would know the future, because we would then make our future and make it such as we want it to be. If we had fate, we would also know the future, because fate corresponds to type. If the type is known, then the fate can be known. That is both the past and the future. But accidents cannot be foreseen. Today a man is one thing, tomorrow he is different. Today one thing happens to him, tomorrow another. But you are not able to foresee what is going to happen to each of us, somebody asked. That is to say, foretell what result each of us will reach in work on himself, and whether it is worth his while to begin the work. It is impossible to say, said G. One can only foretell the future for men. It is impossible to foretell the future for mad machines. Their direction changes every moment. At one moment, a machine of this kind is going in one direction, and you can calculate where it can get to, but 5 minutes later it's already going in quite a different direction, and all your calculations prove to be wrong. Therefore, before talking about knowing the future, one must know whose future is meant. If a man wants to know his own future, he must first of all know himself. Then he will see whether it is worth his while to know his future. Sometimes, maybe, it is better not to know it. It sounds paradoxical, but we have every right to say that we know our future. It will be exactly the same as our past has been. Nothing can change of itself. And in practice, in order to study the future, one must first learn to notice and to remember the moments when we really know the future, when we act in accordance with this knowledge. When judging by results, it will be possible to demonstrate that we really do know the future. This happens in simple ways in business, for instance. Every good commercial businessman knows the future. If he does not know the future, his business goes smash. In work on oneself, one must be a good businessman, a good merchant, and knowing the future is worthwhile only when a man can be his own master. There was a question here about the future life, about how to create it and how to avoid fatal death, how not to die. For it is necessary to be. If a man is changing every minute, there is nothing in him that can withstand external influences. It means that there is nothing in him that can withstand death. But if he becomes independent of external forces, if there appears in him something that can live by itself, this something may not die. In ordinary circumstances, we die every moment. External influences change, and we change with them. That is, our many eyes die. If a man develops in himself a permanent I that can survive a change in external conditions, it can survive the death of the physical body. The whole secret is that one cannot work for a future life without working for this one. In working for life, a man works for death, or rather, for immortality. Therefore, work for immortality, if one may so call it, cannot be separated from the general work. In attaining the one, a man attains the other. A man may strive to be simply for the sake of his own life's interests. Through this alone he may become immortal. We do not speak especially of a future life, and we do not study whether it exists or not, because the laws are everywhere the same. In studying his own life as he knows it, and the lives of other men, from birth to death, a man is studying all the laws which govern life and death and immortality. If he becomes the master of his life, he may become the master of his death.